Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa was born in 1836 to a devout family in rural Bengal. As a young man, Ramakrishna was interested in pursuing God consciousness above all other studies. He joined his elder brother, who was then head priest at Dakshineswar Kali Temple, a holy site that is still active today. When his brother passed away, Ramakrishna was appointed as the temple's priest. Continuing his own spiritual practice, he studied with some of the accomplished practitioners who visited the temple. When he met with Totapuri Maharaj, a Naga monk of the Dasnami order of Adi Shankara, Sri Ramakrishna experienced a complete awakening of God consciousness. As he became more well-known, people of all social backgrounds visited Sri Ramakrishna at the Dakshineswar temple. In his teachings, Sri Ramakrishna emphasized the unity of all religions in leading to the ultimate goal of knowing God. Many of his lectures were recorded and later published as a book by one of his prominent disciples, Mahendranath Gupta. This 5-volume Bengali classic was translated into English as the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Its pages are filled with spiritual wisdom that is imparted in parables, clear explanations, and caring dialogues with disciples. We now present to you an excerpt from Chapter 3, Visit to Vidyasagar. Jnani and Vijnani. The Jnani gives up his identification with worldly things, discriminating not this, not this. Only then can he realize Brahman. It is like reaching the roof of a house by leaving the steps behind, one by one. But the Vijnani, who is more intimately acquainted with Brahman, realizes something more. He realizes that the steps are made of the same materials as the roof, bricks, lime, and brick dust. That which is realized intuitively as Brahman through the eliminating process of not this, is then found to have become the universe and all its living beings. The Vijnani sees that the reality which is nirguna without attributes is also saguna with attributes. A man cannot live on the roof a long time. He comes down again. Those who realize Brahman in Samadhi come down also and find that it is Brahman that has become the universe and its living beings. In the musical scale, there are the notes sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, and ni. But one cannot keep one's voice on ni a long time. The ego does not vanish altogether. The man coming down from Samadhi perceives that it is Brahman that has become the ego, the universe, and all living beings. This is known as Vijnana. Path of love is easy. The path of knowledge leads to truth, as does the path that combines knowledge and love. The path of love, too, leads to this goal. The way of love is as true as the way of knowledge. All paths ultimately lead to the same truth. But as long as God keeps the feeling of ego in us, it is easier to follow the path of love. The Vijnani sees that Brahman is immovable and actionless, like Mount Sumuru. This universe consists of the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. They are in Brahman, but Brahman is unattached. God's supernatural powers. The Vijnani further sees that what is Brahman is the Bhagavan, the personal God. He who is beyond the 3 gunas is the Bhagavan with his 6 supernatural powers. Living beings, the universe, mind, intelligence, love, renunciation, knowledge, all these are the manifestations of his power. If an aristocrat has neither house nor property, or if he has been forced to sell them, one doesn't call him an aristocrat anymore. God is endowed with the 6 supernatural powers. If he were not, who would obey him? Different manifestations of God's power. Just see how picturesque this universe is. How many things there are. The sun, moon, and stars. And how many varieties of living beings. Big and small, good and bad, strong and weak. Some endowed with more power, some with less. Vidyasagar. Has he endowed some with more power and others with less? Master. As the all-pervading spirit, he exists in all beings, even in the ant. But the manifestations of his power are different in different beings. Otherwise, how can one person put 10 to flight, while another can't face even one? And why do all people respect you? Have you grown a pair of horns? You have more compassion and learning. Therefore, people honor you and come to pay you their respects. Don't you agree with me? Vidyasagar smiled. The master continued, there is nothing in mere scholarship. The object of study is to find means of knowing God and realizing Him. A holy man had a book. When asked what it contained, he opened it and showed that on all the pages were written the words Om Rama and nothing else. What is the significance of the Gita? It is what you find by repeating the word 10 times. It is then reversed into Tagi, which means a person who has renounced everything for God. And the lesson of the Gita is, O men, renounce everything and seek God alone. Whether a man is a monk or a householder, he has to shake off all attachment from his mind. Chaitanya set out on a pilgrimage to southern India. One day, he saw a man reading the Gita. Another man, seated at a distance, was listening and weeping. His eyes were swimming in tears. Chaitanya asked him, do you understand all this? The man said, no, revered sir. I don't understand a word of the text. Then why are you crying? Asked Chaitanya. The devotee said, I see Arjuna's chariot before me. I see Lord Krishna and Arjuna seated in front of it, talking. I see this and I weep. Why does a Vijnani keep an attitude of love toward God? The answer is that I consciousness persists. It disappears in the state of samadhi, no doubt, but it comes back. In the case of ordinary people, the I never disappears. You may cut down the aswatha tree, but the next day, sprouts shoot up. Ego causes our sufferings. Even after the attainment of knowledge, this I consciousness comes up. Nobody knows from where. O Lord, I am the servant. Thou art the master. I am the child. Thou art the mother. Once Rama asked Hanuman, how do you look on me? And Hanuman replied, O Rama, as long as I have the feeling of I see that thou art the whole, and I am a part. Thou art the master, and I am thy servant. But when, O Rama, I have the knowledge of truth, then I realize that thou art I, and I am thou. The relationship of master and servant is the proper one. Since this I must remain, let the rascal be God's servant. Evil of I and mine. I and mine, these constitute ignorance. My house, my wealth, my learning, my possessions. The attitude that prompts one to say such things comes of ignorance. On the contrary, the attitude born of knowledge is, O God, thou art the master, and all these things belong to thee. House, family, children, attendants, friends are thine. One should constantly remember death. Nothing will survive death. We are born into this world to perform certain duties, like the people who come from the countryside to Calcutta on business. If a visitor goes to a rich man's garden, the superintendent says to him, "This is our garden, this is our lake," and so forth. But if the superintendent is dismissed for some misdeed, he can't carry away even his manglewood chest. He sends it secretly by the gatekeeper. God laughs on two occasions. He laughs when the physician says to the patient's mother, "Don't be afraid, mother, I shall certainly cure your boy." God laughs, saying to himself, "I am going to take his life," and this man says he will save it. The physician thinks he is the master, forgetting that God is the master. God laughs again when two brothers divide their land with a string, saying to each other, "This side is mine, and that side is yours." He laughs and says to himself, "The whole universe belongs to me, but they say they own this portion or that portion. Can one know God through reasoning? Be his servant, surrender yourself to him, and then pray to him."
Don't be vegan, cause you want to visit hell.
Noble viewers, it's been a pleasure to have you with us today on Words of Wisdom.